this is kind of an attack against setting these up. And they have systematically blocked a lot of ways that you have to set up your computer without having the local account.
Despite Microsoft removing the last remaining ways to bypass needing a Microsoft account to set up Windows,
Microsoft is blocking all local accounts on Windows 11.
Microsoft has just been exposed for blocking unofficial Windows downloads, and it's sending shockwaves through the tech world. Tools people rely on are being cut off, forcing users straight into Microsoft's locked-down system and online accounts.
Not allow Microsoft to force us to use an online account. Now, Microsoft has removed some of the ways to do this.
Right now, people trying to download official Windows 11 files are getting IP blocked. Not hackers or pirates, but regular users, IT professionals, and system administrators with no warning, no explanation, and no apology.
You can create your image with Rufus and tag your installation media through Rufus as creating a local account only. So if you would download the Windows ISO, burn your ISO onto your drive using the Rufus application, and you can go into the settings of that and tag it to mark that USB installation file as a local account version.
And at the center of this storm is Rufus, a free open-source tool used by millions to create bootable Windows USB drives. When Rufus tried to fetch the latest Windows 11 Insider Preview (ISO) from Microsoft's own servers, it was hit with an IP ban. Google Fiber users blocked. NTT users in Japan blocked. Deutsche Telekom users in Germany blocked. Different countries, different ISPs, same block, same error, same silence from Microsoft.
Now, I've actually loaded this up, and made sure all of these commands like OOBE, bypass NRO is gone, start MSCXH is gone, and they specifically said, we're removing all of it. And you're going to use a Microsoft account and like it.
The error message Microsoft servers are returning is far from generic. It specifically states that certain users, entities, and locations are banned. That's not accidental language, that's policy language. Here is what makes this even more suspicious. Manual downloads through a regular browser sometimes still work perfectly fine, but the moment a tool makes an automated scripted request for the exact same file from the exact same server, it gets blocked instantly. That level of precision does not happen by accident. You cannot accidentally block scripted requests while leaving browser requests untouched. That requires specific configuration. That is a targeted and deliberate decision made by someone inside Microsoft.
How to install and log into Windows 11 without a Microsoft account. And there's been a couple ways. Of course, they have blocked many of those. One of those that has still worked generally is to use Rufus. And the problem here is that in the recent couple of days, Microsoft is now blocking that auto download utility.
The specific builds being blocked include Windows 11 Insider Canary build 2.8020.1611 and Windows Server Preview build 29531. These are not casual hobby files that enthusiasts download for fun. These are the exact builds used by developers, professional testers, IT departments, and enterprise teams running pilot deployment programs. Microsoft just cut off the most technically capable and professionally serious segment of its entire user base. The people who fix Windows problems for everyone else. The people who find bugs before regular users ever see them. Blocked without a conversation.
Well, let's first show you that these commands are now gone. So we're going to pull up our command line. We're going to go OOBE, bypass NRO, command not found.
Pete Betard, the developer behind Rufus, responded publicly and directly. He stated that breaking this specific download workflow would require deliberate action on Microsoft's part. He built the tool. He wrote the code. He understands exactly what server-side change produces this result. And his conclusion after examining the behavior is clear. This was not a mistake. This was a choice.
CXH or MS-CXH, : local only. We're going to hit enter here. Watch what happens. Normally we should get a little window saying, hey, what user you want? Oh no. What has happened? It's rebooting. I didn't do that. And then it just kicks you back to this screen.
Here's the history Microsoft hopes you'll forget. This is far from the first time it's happened. In 2022, Microsoft broke the scripted download flows that Rufus depended on. Rufus adapted and kept working. Then in 2024, Microsoft quietly patched out the method that allowed users to bypass the Microsoft account during setup. No announcement, no replacement. Shift plus F10 and other workarounds soon followed, getting restricted without warning. Every few months, without documentation or alternatives, another door closed. Now, they're blocking download endpoints altogether. This isn't a company making repeated mistakes. It's a company executing a strategy, patiently and systematically.
Windows installation files, and they were getting a notice that they could not download it. The IP had been blocked. And these were people that were using like Google Fiber and not using VPNs and things like this. But it turns out that multiple different platforms like Rufus, including Rufus, also said, yeah, Microsoft is probably doing something weird under the hood.
To understand why Microsoft is doing this, you need to understand exactly what Rufus threatens. Rufus does not hack Windows. It does not pirate anything. It does not bypass activation or steal licenses. It uses completely official Microsoft files downloaded from Microsoft servers. What it does is give users control over how those files get installed. It lets you install Windows on older hardware that Microsoft has officially declared incompatible. It lets you set up Windows with a local account without ever touching a Microsoft account. It lets you complete the entire installation process completely offline. Every single one of those capabilities directly interferes with what Microsoft is aggressively trying to construct.
And some funny things happen here. One, it always checks for updates, and if it does find updates, you're going to be sitting here for another hour while it installs them. There's a lot of shenanigans happening here, but you might be thinking, I'll just disconnect my computer from the internet. No, it won't proceed without an internet connection.
What Microsoft is constructing is a pipeline. Windows is no longer simply an operating system you purchase and own. It is an onboarding mechanism for Microsoft's cloud and subscription business. Every user who creates a Microsoft account during Windows setup becomes a potential Microsoft 365 subscriber, and OneDrive storage customer, a Copilot engagement metric, and most importantly, an advertising target. Microsoft now serves advertisements directly inside Windows 11, inside the Start menu, inside File Explorer, inside the lock screen. Targeted advertising requires a persistent and trackable identity. A local account gives Microsoft nothing to target, nothing to monetize, and nothing to upsell. So local accounts are being made progressively harder to find and choose at every single step of the process.
A couple days ago, Microsoft decided to remove the bypass NRO command prompt option when installing Windows. This allowed you to create a local account instead of logging into Microsoft.
The Windows 11 setup screen makes the strategy obvious to anyone paying attention. The Microsoft account path is colorful, visually prominent, and set as the default. The local account path is buried behind multiple extra screens, rendered in gray, and requires knowing specifically where to look. That is not neutral user experience design. That is a conversion funnel engineered to capture users who do not know they have a choice. Dark pattern design, targeting the least informed and most vulnerable users. If you're finding this eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button, share with others, and subscribe for more updates.
Rufus blames Microsoft for blocking the latest Windows 11 ISO downloads. And so they did change. Microsoft did release some recent patches to Windows Hello, which they explain over there. But they say here, meanwhile, users have also noted other similar recent changes that may or may not be intentional. And what this is here is that insider channel previews are failing to download, affecting Windows 11 Canary build.
Now add the Windows 10 deadline on top of all this pressure. Windows 10 officially reaches end of support on October 14th, 2025. Security patches will stop completely. For hundreds of millions of users still running Windows 10, the pressure to upgrade is no longer theoretical. It is immediate and real.
If you ask Microsoft, this Windows 10 PC is e-waste, which is why I just switched to Linux. Now specifically, I'm using Zorin OS, which is a distro specifically designed for people who are used to the way that Windows works. And the experience is pretty good. I tried gaming, I've tried it on a couple different laptops. While it's not perfect, it is a lot better than you might expect. I dropped an entire video talking about this, but the bottom line is this: if you're tired of Windows, especially if you're still stuck on Windows 10, then maybe it's time to give Linux a try.
But here is the critical problem. Microsoft's Windows 11 hardware requirements include TPM 2.0, secure boot, and a minimum of 8th generation Intel processors. Hundreds of millions of completely functional computers fail those requirements. Not because they are slow, not because they struggle with everyday tasks, not because they cannot handle Windows 11. Independent performance tests conducted repeatedly across different hardware configurations consistently show Windows 11 running identically on unsupported hardware, and in some cases actually performing better due to scheduler improvements. The hardware requirements are not engineering decisions. They are business decisions. They exist to force hardware upgrades that benefit Microsoft's OEM partners and create new account registration opportunities.
Anytime I install a new Windows, I spend like an hour trying to uninstall all the pre-packaged BS that I don't want. Windows is like, I know you paid $100 or whatever for me, but I'm still gonna put ads in here. Yes. Put a little AI in here. You want that, right? That doesn't benefit me. It's for you, the consumer. Bing! It doesn't benefit me that you use Bing, but please use Bing.
Every user who cannot officially upgrade and purchases a new machine is a new Microsoft account creation, a new subscription touchpoint, and a new revenue stream. Every small business running a fleet of perfectly functional 6- or 7-year-old computers now faces a hardware refresh bill worth thousands of dollars they did not budget for and cannot easily absorb. Tools like Rufus were the practical and legitimate solution for those businesses and those users. And that solution is now being quietly strangled one blocked endpoint at a time.
But this is not so much the case on Microsoft Windows. If Microsoft decides, hey, you don't want this feature, you don't need this feature, you don't have the feature anymore. Now maybe there are workarounds, maybe there are ways to bring it back, but if there's not, well, hey, sucks to be you.
This is also generating an environmental catastrophe that the mainstream technology press is almost completely ignoring. Credible estimates place the number of functional computers being pushed toward premature disposal by Microsoft's artificial hardware requirements at over 240 million machines globally. Manufacturing a single new personal computer generates roughly 300 to 400 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent across the full production chain. Multiply that number across tens of millions of forced and unnecessary hardware replacements, and the resulting carbon footprint rivals the annual emissions of mid-sized countries. Microsoft publishes detailed sustainability commitments in its annual reports and investor presentations while simultaneously running policies that are driving one of the largest and most unnecessary waves of electronic waste in the history of consumer technology. That contradiction deserves to be stated plainly and loudly.
So on GitHub, issue described as the Fido script is no longer working. Batard believes that the tech giant is intentionally detecting the scripts. They are detecting the script, which frankly is not hard to do since it's open source. And he says it would require active intentional involvement from Microsoft to break the script of the downloads. And they've actually mentioned that this has happened in the past, and Rufus has later fixed it in the past.
Bill Gates left Microsoft's board of directors in 2020. He does not run this company and has not for years. But the company he founded was built on a single animating promise: a computer on every desk and in every home. Not a computer on every approved desk. Not a computer in every verified home. Every desk, every home, universally. That promise and the genuine belief behind it is what transformed Microsoft from a small software company into the most dominant technology corporation on Earth. The current Microsoft leadership is systematically doing the exact opposite of that founding vision. They are deciding which computers deserve to run their software. They are blocking the tools that make installation accessible. They are closing every pathway that returns control to users. The philosophy that built the empire is being deliberately dismantled by the people who inherited it.
And for a completely unfathomable reason, I don't know why this appears to be their goal. Microsoft has the goal of pissing off enthusiast users as much as possible. The normies, they'll eat shit and they will thank you for it.
The human cost of these decisions is completely real, and it is not abstract. The independent IT technician who earns their living doing clean installs, virus removals, and system rebuilds for local clients just lost a core professional tool with no warning and no replacement. The school technology coordinator managing 150 machines on a budget that cannot absorb new hardware purchases is now trapped between an unsupported operating system and a Linux migration they never planned for. The software developer relying on insider preview builds to test application compatibility before public release just got locked out of the files their work depends on. The privacy-conscious home user who specifically avoids Microsoft accounts to limit their data exposure just watched their last reliable clean workaround get quietly eliminated. None of these people did anything wrong. All of them are paying the price for a corporate strategy they never consented to.
I can't remember if the other one was Extra or one of the other services, but apparently Microsoft is now blocking the ability to download the ISOs on the Canary builds so that apparently you can't test doing local accounts.
The historical pattern here is impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention to Microsoft's past. This company used its Windows dominance to force Internet Explorer adoption on an entire generation of Internet users. European regulators eventually intervened and mandated browser choice screens. The EU has already forced Microsoft to unbundle Teams from Office after determining the bundling was anti-competitive. The combination of ISO blocking, forced account requirements, and systematic tool suppression may be exactly the category of behavior that eventually lands in front of regulators under the EU Digital Markets Act. That process takes years. Meanwhile, the doors keep closing on schedule.
But the enthusiasts, the people that build computers, the people that understand what an operating system is, understand that, hey, this Linux thing, maybe it's worth trying at some point. These are the people that you can actually lose.
Several future scenarios are now genuinely on the table. Microsoft could be building toward a full subscription model where consumer Windows requires persistent account authentication and local installations become an enterprise-only paid tier. Evidence for this trajectory already exists in Windows 365, which delivers Windows entirely as a cloud-streamed service. A second scenario involves Microsoft eventually leveraging its secure boot infrastructure to block unsigned installation media entirely, rendering tools like Rufus technically impossible regardless of network conditions. A third scenario, the optimistic one, involves regulatory intervention forcing Microsoft to maintain legally protected open installation pathways and recognize third-party tools as legitimate. That outcome requires users, professionals, and advocacy organizations to be significantly louder than they currently are.
What you're breaking is something that a lot of people actually don't want in their system.
The blocks are live. Microsoft has said nothing. The developer who built the most trusted tool in this space says the blocking is intentional. Users across multiple continents and dozens of ISPs are locked out of files Microsoft publishes as publicly available. And every door that closes in this story stays closed permanently.